Electric hydrofoils are taking over the world, and today we meet Julien from Fliteboard to continue our series of Efoil Pro tips and tricks. If you missed our part 1 and 2, make sure to check them out. We covered a lot of great tips for creating a pro setup, riding at maximum speed, changing shims, and many more. In this episode, Julien is sharing his experience with the first efoil race called Flitecup that he recently organized, the new Fliteboard Series 2 boards, Pro and Ultra, and choosing the right wings.
What's up, champions? Welcome back to our show. Today we are doing our annual Fliteboard tips and tricks video with Julien from Fliteboard. It's already third year we are doing this. It's a good tradition now to meet each year, see our experience, see what we learned from the previous year of riding. And recently Julien and his team organized a really cool event. It was the first efoil race called Flitecup. It was a big success and I'm very proud that it was held here in Portugal. So Julien, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. I'm happy to be here again. It's round 3, and here I guess we'll start talking about the Flitecup, and then we'll go right into tips and tricks version 3. This time it's going to be having your standard order, and now you're shifting to wanting to have a pro setup, get some pro wings, change your style of riding. You're getting really into fliteboarding, and we're going to show you how to do it.
Yeah, and of course we are going to cover the new Ultra. Everybody has been asking about Fliteboard Ultra. It's been a conversation piece for the last few months.
So yeah, we're going to talk about the Ultra. It's here to stay. We're going to compare it to riding a pro board or riding an Ultra board. What should you buy and why? And if you have an Ultra board coming, if you've already reserved it, keep waiting. It's on the way. There's been a long queue. There's been a long wait. Everybody wants one, but we're producing more and more as every day goes by. The company just wants to keep supplying the demand that you guys are giving to us. So just hang tight, and you'll get your Ultra board soon, and you'll just have a blast on the water.
Yeah, let's start with the Flitecup. It's been a really amazing event. If you guys missed, I made a video about Flitecup, so make sure to check it out to learn everything about this cool event. And I'm very happy that it was the first official efoil race. We had about 12 riders, a lot of fliteboards, the pro league, the beginner league. Tell us a little bit what we learned. We tested so many boards, so many wings. It's been a lot of stuff there.
So so far, let me just start off. I'm really thankful for everybody who came. It was really difficult with COVID to get everybody to confirm their attendance, and then some people had to attend the last minute, some people had to drop out, and that was unfortunate for them. Everybody wanted to be there who was invited. We did keep the invite list really closed because we had no idea what to expect the first time, and this was to try and prove the concept, and we ended up succeeding, and we were really happy about that. We learned a lot at the event. We got a lot of good content. Everybody got to try different equipment and put it to the test. The Flitecup is an interesting one, and it's definitely here to stay. We're gonna keep working on growing this event and inviting you guys to come and compete against some new owners like you and some experienced owners. And so keep your ears and eyes out for anything that happens on social media for the next event. Or if you want to attend your own event, make sure to send us a message if you want some of our help. We'd be happy to help if we have the time, but make sure you do it early. I'm talking about real early. We're so many events going on, so if you have an event in mind, send us an email 2 to 3 months ahead of time, and then we'll be happy to help and even maybe support the event. Bring some boards down, bring the team down. We got to grow the sport, and it's going to be an amazing experience as we grow together.
All right. Speaking of the boards, we had about 12 boards, like I said, and we put them to the toughest tests, running all day long. There were also demo runs, but most important, there were no injuries, nothing broke down. So this was exciting to see, especially in such a heat. It was extremely hot day all the time.
Yeah, there was a lot of challenges at the event. We did have heat. We had to make sure everybody was safe. We had to have water security. We had to keep changing and arranging the track to make it suit the riders. Keep it challenging, keep it safe. Try to not have everybody reach top speed, but you'll see a clip right now. Tom just going hauling around the big red section. But we had to definitely keep it technical because this sport is developing to different areas and different ranges that we're only discovering, and we're testing how each wing works in different situations. You might see a clip now of the race wing going around a turn versus the flow wing around a turn at a slower speed or a higher speed. There's all these variables in a race that we have to take account for, and this is a great learning experience. We're happy that everybody got a lap. Some other challenges were, yeah, it was really hot. It got really hot in the afternoon, and we had a lot of riders on the water, everybody taking one battery, changing it to another. Those batteries got pretty warm, and we had to make sure we had a good enough charging station to keep everything cool, keep them charging, keep everybody back out on the water. The best way to cool your battery is go fliteboarding. The aluminum mast makes it so if you want to keep your board cool, keep it in the water, keep running, and maybe after you ride, if you've ridden for like a good hour and a half, or you've been riding really hard, keep the board face up with the mast down in the water for just a couple minutes after your ride. It'll start cooling everything down just a little better before you put it on the charging station. So Mike is then probably going to show you, this is what our charging station looked like. It was pretty intense. We had at one point probably 8 batteries charging at a time. That's a challenge in itself to make sure there's enough electricity at such a remote location. You got to keep everything clean, keep your contacts clean, make sure whoever's ever charging the batteries knows what they're doing. So there's a lot of effort that goes into just a role that everybody plays, and it really starts with giving everybody a good briefing about safety and another briefing about how to manage all the equipment and their time on the water.
And very important to mention, some people are wondering what about safety. They saw probably before Motorsurf World Cup, just surfs are running together at the same time, but here of course with Efoil it's unrealistic to ride at the same time several people will be just crashing into each other, hitting the mast, so it was one at a time. Yeah, that's very important.
Fliteboard might be developing into the future where you could probably race one-on-one or on a parallel track, which would definitely be possible if you have enough time and logistics. But then running more than one person at a time on the same track, that will end up being challenging due to the vortex. So from the vortex, the propeller creates a bit of turbulence behind itself, and so if you have somebody riding behind it, that turbulence is enough to shift the wing slightly and have someone lose their balance. Not only that, efoils are a little bulkier than other jet boards in the fact that they're three-dimensional out of the water. So if one person were to fall and you're kind of not strapped in with foot straps, another person can then has a little less control to get in and get out of the way and might have an accident. So we kept the race pretty strict at one person at a time, kind of like a ski or snowboard event. And each session somebody would have, they'd have a first round of practice, and then they would do their lap within the each group category of when the time counted. Okay, so one last thing about safety, you got to make sure you have safety boats out there. If somebody crashes, you don't have enough time to go pick them up with an efoil. You have to have a safety boat or a safety ski always in attention for somebody if they fall. When people are in race mode, you don't know what's going to happen. You're going to see a lot of crashes. You have to have safety measures in place. People knowing if something's gone wrong or if something's still okay with somebody, whether they're waving their hands, they're saying they're okay, or they need assistance. It's really important that you get assistance on time and ready for everybody. We got so lucky that nobody got hurt, but that's because we had a really good safety briefing right at the beginning, and everybody understood how important it was on the water. This was very vital to the event success, that we had a good safety on the water.
Okay, good point. Now let's get into the boards themselves. We had there of course pro boards and we had ultras, but what's important, most people chose to ride pros, not ultras. So let's compare why and what are the main differences between pro and ultra.
Okay, so most of you riders out there, statistically speaking, you probably have a standard board. You probably have which means your board is about between a 5.2 and a 5.8. Whether you have a lift, a Takuma, a Waydo, or a Fliteboard, your board is more of in the standard range. Then we've got pro boards, which are sub 5'4", 5-foot or sub 5-foot boards that are part of, let's say 20% of the fleet of efoils out there are pro boards, and those have a little bit easier maneuverability. Somebody who orders a pro board, 99% of the time they're going to order a 75 centimeter mast, the larger mast, and so those riders have a little bit more experience, tighter turns, with higher angles of turning, and you have not a lot more control, I would say, but you definitely have way more control. So I would say you have much more control on a pro board than you do on a standard board, just because of the difference in how much volume the board has and how much weight you're having to move around every time. So why did some people pick the pro board instead of the ultra? One, because people wanted to get into their comfort zone to race. You want to feel comfortable when you're racing. If you're too far out of your comfort zone, that's when you're going to have an accident, and that's where we have to have our safety talk again. In particular, we had 2 racers try the ultra, and some of them actually preferred the pro. This is because if you're racing with the ultra, you have a little bit of a slower start because of the lower volume, and everybody was more comfortable with the pro on the touchdowns and touch-ups. So the pro board, everybody felt a little more comfortable with it because the ultra, if you were to fall, it would take a little bit more time to recover because of it's got such little volume. I think it's got about 54 liters, the Fliteboard Ultra, which means it'll take you longer to get up and planing and then standing and foiling than it does on the Pro. The Pro has 67 liters, which gives you just the right balance of volume to turning radius, and everybody felt comfortable that they could compete properly with that board today. It doesn't mean that the Ultra is worse for racing. As soon as we get all these ultra riders out in the water, they're gonna, and then putting their foot straps on, they're not gonna be falling in the water, and they're gonna be taking that risk. If I fall, I'll get back up, but I have more maneuverability around the turns. So this Flitecup event, we had a couple really important turn sections that you had to pay attention to. You had to slow your speed down, but it was mostly mid-range to where the Pro board fit everybody's comfort the best.
Yeah. And it's also important to mention that just because the board is smaller doesn't mean that the that efoil is different. It's basically the same efoil, and the speed depends more on the wings that you're going to use and not just the board size.
Yeah, you can probably see on social media, on all the Facebook groups right now, everybody's using different wings. They're trying out different wings on the Ultra and giving a lot of feedback. Right now the feedback is they love the Ultra, but we're hearing more about how the wings change their feeling out on the water more than anything else. That's really important for you guys to know. The wings, every wing change is different, and we're going to go to a tip later about changing the stabilizer wing again.
Mm-hmm. So what we learned here is that it's more important to set the correct wings than just being obsessed about getting an ultra.
Yeah,
especially
exactly.
in a cup like this where control is more important than just pure speed.
If you're new to Fliteboard, and you're new to any efoiling community, if you buy a Fliteboard or not, start with a standard or a Pro board because you'll enjoy it more over time. Then if you feel like you need an ultra board, order one after that. We really recommend you maximize your time out on the water versus trying something new and difficult right away. Plus, we don't have that many ultra boards in stock.
Good point.
You might have to wait a little bit extra time for your ultra board.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But it's same like I said with real surfing as well. You're not going to learn how to surf waves on the short board. You have to progress, starting with soft top, then the long board, and only after a few years you're going to the short board. Same with ultra and short pro boards. You don't need to learn and struggle. It has no flotation. It's very hard even for us to start when it's first time on ultra.
Yeah, exactly.
So you don't have to struggle, just get bigger board and enjoy. It's not embarrassing to have a bigger size board.
Yeah, you still look cool out in the water.
Exactly.
Yeah, what should matter to you is how you feel on the board and how comfortable you feel. Take race out of the equation and go just exploring. Do a bit of exploring, do a bit of cruising out in the water. Give yourself some time to slowly progress with the board so that you really enjoy every second you have out in the water.
And another good point is that if you're going to teach your friends or you're going to start a flight school, having ultra is not really the best option for you as a first board to give lessons on, right?
Exactly. I will teach all my friends on a standard board on a calm day, and we'll go from there. And then if they progress within the session, you can see how they're progressing. Okay, maybe we can put you on the pro board, but I wouldn't put anybody on the ultra board their first lesson, maybe not even their first week or their first month, until I could see how comfortable they were on the board, and if you're not falling. I mean, you're going to start off, every sport you do, you're going to fall. Fliteboard, the first couple sessions, you're going to fall, and you're going to learn from that. And you gotta really hone your technique before you jump on the ultimate experience of a board. The ultra is ultimate, that's for sure. Add the foot straps, you even have more control. You've probably seen that video of David explaining a little bit more about the ultra. Take your time to progress, and then and you'll enjoy that way more than doing it backwards.
Yeah. And another tip here is make sure there is a flat day and less wind, because even slight chop and wind makes a big difference when you're learning. It's very hard to start planing when the board is flapping on the surface. And you're just struggling for no reason. Just get the right day and enjoy it quite easy.
Choose your days to go out riding, once, especially when you're learning. Once you know how to fliteboard, and you know how to use the board, you know how to get up planing on an efoil. If it's windy, go downwind to get up, and then you can go right through the chop after that. That's totally fine. But definitely choose your days if you're going to teach somebody. It'll cut the time in half, and everybody will have more fun. Plus, you can have a conversation while you're riding. You can really, if it's a nice calm day, you can. The efoil is so silent, you can just have a conversation. Hey, let's go over there. Let's check out that island. Let's go exploring over there. Let's take a break in 5 minutes. Let's go for a swim. It adds to the adventure, just some calm weather.
Perfect. Now let's get to the board and tell me your pro tips of this setup.
Okay, so you've probably started off, if you have a standard board and you want to go to a pro, 90% of our clients order with a cruiser wing setup. So a cruiser 1100 wing, normally standard, that comes with every board. And setting it up is pretty simple in itself. The screws come in the pack, the instructions are easy, but now you want to be a pro rider, or you want to move to the pro board, and now you want to start getting new wings. What's really important is that you have the right screw size for each wing. And when you change and mix and match your wings for different riding styles, whether you're cruising out with the cruiser or you're flowing in waves with the flow wing, the flow 900, the flow S1300, or the flow 1100, you're gonna have to change your wings quite a lot, and each wing has its own set of screws. If you get the screws wrong, you won't get the right fit. You could maybe damage your efoil, or you could damage your you could lose your wing actually, because the thread's not deep enough. I'm here to show you what you should look for when you set your board back up with a new wing set, and know what screws to make sure to choose and why.
All right.
Okay. Little pro tip: every Fliteboard and new wing set comes with a standard hex key. So I've also got my 13mm ratchet tool to then remove the prop, change the prop guard, and put a pro tail cover on to use all the other pro and upgrades you have for Fliteboard.
Perfect.
So I'm quickly just going to change my put my wing on.
And for people who wondering why don't you use same screws for everything, you need to understand they have different thickness.
Yeah.
So race wings are much thinner.
So cruiser wings are the standard wing, and they need to have a 40mm at the front and two 35mm at the back. Every other wing is slightly different. You might have to have a 35 at the front, a 30, 20s at the back. It all depends on which wing you're using, because they all have different thicknesses. So I'm going to show you something really important. When you put your wings into your board, it's pretty sticky, but it's a good thing. You got to use Tef gel. If you don't use Tef gel, you'll actually start corroding your board. This is because we have different metals on the board. We've got aluminum, we've got carbon, which actually acts as a conductor as well, and the screws are stainless steel inox, so they don't rust. So we've got a couple of components that are all working together to give us a good ride, but they're all trying to equalize, and they're doing a bit of electrolysis on the water, which is also why we have this anode. So important, before I put my wings on, and I've taken my screws off. Maybe you noticed I had the screws already ready. It makes it much easier to keep track of your screws. And if you lose one screw, I would definitely suggest you don't go out riding. It's really important you have all your screws in place and everything's tight before you ride. You could end up, lost out on the water. So I've got 3 screws in. I've got a 40 and 2 35s. I'm going to hold them and flip them over. These are the screw lengths I want sticking out of my wing. They're not too long and they're not too short. They're not too long, meaning that they're not going to poke through the actual fuselage, which is really important. And they're not too short. They have just enough threads to lock the wing inside the threads of the fuselage, tight enough without them pulling too much against the thread inserts and potentially de-threading your board. If your screws were too short, you have a much higher risk while you're riding. Most likely if you hit something, if you hit the shore, you hit the sand, or if you hit a rock or you hit some seaweed, it's going to put a lot of pressure on your wings, and that's going to want to pull the screw right out of the threads, and that's just bad news. Then you have to replace your whole fuselage unit, and that's going to cost you a lot of money. So really important, check your screws before you then apply it to the board. Upside down, then place them on. Use minimal amount of force to start off with. You put all the screws in place.
And like we said, tough gel, so they don't unscrew on their own.
A lot of tough gel. If you feel like maybe I have enough, put some more. It's in the box. You can order some more. The more tough gel you have, sorry, no.
the better.
The more tough gel,
just put it all over the place.
Yeah.
Spray it over.
Yeah. So tough gel is pretty sticky. So use a good dab on your screws, enough to where it's creating just a layer that sand and salt water don't get into your threads and then start to corrode. A lot of you out there probably keep your board assembled all the time and your wings in there, and if you didn't put enough tough gel, you're gonna have a hard time taking your screws back out. So let me just finish screwing in this wing. So I've tightened it standing with the hex key standing up, or let's say I had my home key standing up as well. With this tool, it's not easy to gauge how much pressure you should use. With the hex key that comes with it, and what's worked for me and is really important, you don't over tighten your screws because you don't want to press into the carbon and destroy the integrity of the screw holes you have on the wing. So without pulling at the end, because this will be too tight, you're going to tighten with just your fingers as tight as you can, close to the base of the hex key. You're going to do that with all the screws, and take your time, but you can do as tight as possible, and that's the limit. If you go from here and you go as tight as possible, you're probably going to press into the carbon.
Let's cover the differences between wings. Now with Fliteboard Series 2 you have several types of wings. In the past we had only the flyer wing and the cruiser wing, but
exactly.
Now we have all sorts of wings, including the high aspect ratio wings.
Yeah, so this is a Flow 900 wing right here, and it's completely different from what everybody's used to out in the water. If you want to compare it to the cruiser wing, it's just got a little bit less volume, but it's got a completely different shape. It's very high aspect, and this is I would say the lowest volume flow wing we have, but the angles are completely different. It allows for you to roll on the water as opposed to keeping you extra stable out on the water. So with this wing, we've seen a lot of people use it out on the water. They really liked it when we were testing at the Flitecup.
So let's be more specific. Which conditions do you recommend this wing, and which conditions you recommend to use that wing?
So I recommend anybody starting out on the board, they actually purchase a cruiser wing. It's the most stable ride. You'll be able to share your ride with everybody. If you're getting a standard or a pro board, or even an air board, it's a very all-round wing for everybody. If you're going to get into Fliteboarding a little more, like I said, where you're going from a standard setup to a pro setup, get yourself a flow wing, an 1100, a 900, or a 1300, which will actually allow you to surf in the waves. You'll probably see a video now of Kiahi out in the waves. You can get 30 seconds at a time, just rolling, straighting up the motor.
Yeah, with the true glide prop. Yeah,
with the true glide prop, exactly. So we'll go into that in a couple minutes. I recommend you go to our website and actually check out all the different wing options and see all the different descriptions of how this wing reacts at small waves, medium waves, large waves, or if you're out in flat water, get our Flow S series to maximize your fun out in the water.
And finally, let's cover the prop. Now this year with Fliteboard Series 2, we don't have just a standard prop, we also have the new True Glide prop. How easy it is to remove the prop guard, to change the props?
So to remove the props and the prop guards, it's really simple. So if you order a Pro Tail cover or a True Glide prop, it'll come with this toolkit that makes it really easy to just slide the prop off and slide the prop guard off to put your Pro Tail cover or your True Glide prop on it. So you would be taking your prop guard off and replacing it with this small ring if you have a Series 1, or if you have a Series 2, a slightly larger ring. And it's a pretty easy, I don't know if you can see this little clip in here. Mike will probably zoom in. It just clips in and on and makes it really easy to get out in the water.
So tell me, what's the difference between the regular prop and the True Glide prop?
So the True Glide prop is a new prop that actually has a one-way bearing system in it. So if you were to stop the motor, it will then continue to move freely as you ride out on the water. And if you're in waves, you can then collect the wave energy with your wings and continue to glide on the water without any motorized propulsion. And it'll just be a smooth glide as long as you've got some wave energy pushing you. And then if once you pull the trigger again, it automatically locks back in and you can keep riding.
Perfect.
So if you're going to go from being a standard rider to a pro rider, we really do recommend that you visit one of our service centers and get your board revised so it stays in guarantee. The boards do come with a 2-year guarantee, but it is important that to keep it under the warranty, that you get your board revised, change your anode that's at the base of the wing, and make sure all the systems in your board are working before you get back out in the water, whether you end your season or you're just about to start your new season out in the water.
Perfect. Okay, Julien, thank you so much for your time and your tips. I hope we covered everything in a big detail today. And of course, if you want to learn more about Fliteboard and its amazing features of Series 2, you can check out my other videos about Fliteboard Series 2 and of course unboxing and our Flitecup video. Thank you for watching.
Thanks,
and
guys.
I hope I'll see you in the water. Take care.
See you in the water.
Bye.